Somewhere around 2 or 3 in the morning, millions of people wake up for the same reason. Not because of stress, not because of noise, because of a full bladder. For many, it has become so routine that it barely registers as a problem. Just something that happens now, something blamed vaguely on getting older. But the timing of that disruption is rarely random. In many cases, it was set in motion hours earlier by a glass of water that seemed completely harmless at the time. Hydration is one of the most repeated pieces of health advice in existence. Drink more water, stay hydrated, carry a bottle everywhere, and the advice is not wrong. Adequate fluid intake supports circulation, kidney function, temperature regulation, and dozens of processes that keep the body running smoothly. But there is a difference between drinking enough water and drinking it at the wrong moment. A habit that is beneficial in the morning and afternoon can become disruptive at night. The problem is not simply how much water is being consumed, it is when that water arrives. To understand why, it helps to look at what the kidneys are actually doing while a person sleeps. During the day, the kidneys filter blood and produce urine at a fairly steady pace, responding to how much fluid is being taken in. At night, that process is supposed to slow down. The body releases a hormone that concentrates urine and reduces its volume, allowing several hours of uninterrupted sleep without a bathroom trip. This is not a minor detail, it is one of the body's built-in mechanisms for protecting sleep. As people move through their 50s, 60s, and beyond, that mechanism often becomes less efficient. The hormone that concentrates nighttime urine may be produced in smaller amounts. The bladder itself can become less elastic, holding a smaller volume comfortably. In some cases, circulation changes during the day cause fluid to accumulate in the legs, and when a person lies down at night, that fluid gradually returns to the bloodstream and gets processed by the kidneys, hours after it was actually consumed. None of this means something is broken. It means the overnight system that once worked automatically now needs a bit of cooperation. This is where timing becomes relevant. If a large amount of fluid is consumed shortly before lying down, it arrives at the bladder at the exact moment the body is trying to wind that process down. The kidneys are still working through the volume, the bladder fills, and sleep gets interrupted, not once, but sometimes multiple times a night, fragmenting the deep sleep stages that the body relies on for repair and memory consolidation. So when should fluid intake actually taper off? The evidence does not support one single, dramatic cutoff time that applies to everyone. Bodies differ, kidney function differs, medications differ, but a reasonable, evidence-aligned general guideline is to begin reducing substantial fluid intake roughly 2 to 3 hours before going to bed. This gives the kidneys enough time to process most of what has been consumed while the person is still upright and awake, rather than lying flat and asleep. It is not a rigid rule etched in stone. It is a practical window that aligns with how the body typically processes fluid overnight. Several everyday habits tend to work against this window without people realizing it. One of the most common is trying to catch up on hydration late in the evening, remembering around 9 or 10 at night that not enough water was consumed earlier in the day, and drinking a large glass all at once to compensate. The intention is good, the timing works against it. Spreading fluid intake across the day is far more effective than concentrating it in the hours before sleep. Another overlooked factor is beverage choice in the evening. Caffeine and alcohol both have a mild diuretic effect, meaning they can increase urine production beyond what the fluid volume alone would suggest. A cup of coffee after dinner or a glass of wine before bed may seem unrelated to hydration, but both can contribute directly to nighttime bathroom trips. Evening meals matter too. Soups, broths, and high-sodium foods close to bedtime can shift fluid balance in ways that show up later in the night. There is also a simpler, more human mistake: confusing a dry mouth or mild nighttime thirst with a need to drink a large volume immediately. Often a small sip is enough. The instinct to fully refill, especially right before lying down, is usually unnecessary and can work directly against a full night's sleep. None of this should be read as a universal warning. People managing certain health conditions often have very different fluid needs, and general timing advice does not apply to them in the same way. Those living with heart failure, kidney disease, or certain endocrine disorders may be following fluid guidelines set specifically for their situation, sometimes involving daily limits far more precise than a simple evening cutoff. The same is true for anyone taking diuretics or other medications that affect fluid balance. Timing adjustments should never override guidance from the healthcare provider managing that treatment. And it's worth saying plainly, nighttime urination on its own does not automatically signal a serious illness. For many people, it is simply the predictable result of habits that can be adjusted. For those without a specific medical condition dictating otherwise, the practical routine is refreshingly simple. Stay adequately hydrated through the morning and afternoon, when the body can process fluid without interfering with sleep. Let intake taper naturally in the 2 to 3 hours before bed, rather than stopping abruptly out of fear. Be mindful of caffeine and alcohol in the evening, since their effects extend beyond simple fluid volume. Use the bathroom right before lying down, even if it doesn't feel urgent. It removes one variable from the equation. And when a medical condition or medication is part of the picture, let that guidance take priority over any general rule. The body has always had a system for protecting sleep from the normal business of hydration. For most of life, that system runs quietly in the background, requiring no attention at all. What changes with age is not the importance of water, it is the margin for error in when that water arrives. Respecting that margin, rather than fighting it, is often the simplest and most overlooked way to reclaim a full night's rest.